Libby mentioned it. There was one topic that President Trump didn't really cover in his speech tonight. Well, we've seen in the headlines all day, the United States relationship with NATO, whether or not the United States should withdraw. Now, President Trump has never really been shy about criticizing NATO, right? Recently calling the organization a paper tiger, a one-way street. But his criticism of the alliance has come long before our current war with Iran. During his 2016 presidential campaign, President Trump declared that NATO was obsolete, often chiding other countries for not paying their fair share as he saw it. And President Trump is by no means the first politician to feel that way. No, American officials from both sides of the aisle. You look at President John F. Kennedy, for example, expressed frustration with the same thing. Other NATO states for not paying their fair share. President Kennedy's remarks on that topic were to the National Security Council back in 1963. They were in the context of the United States' commitment to West Berlin's freedom. Although I should note that President Kennedy always saw the United States' involvement with NATO to be in our country's best interest. But look, I say all this because I know that some of you are watching here and you're looking at this and you're wondering, well, our involvement with NATO, how really did it come about? What is it about? What role does NATO play in our national security? Very fair questions. And tonight, it's your lucky night. Why? Because I'm going to break it down for you in a segment we call Explain It to Me Like a 6-Year-Old. This is the NATO edition. Although I'll say it actually might flash you back to high school. Okay. North Atlantic Treaty Organization. First of all, how many of you knew that's what it was? North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, as we all know it, was created in the aftermath of World War II and at the outset of the Cold War. And it was in response to threats that were posed by the Soviet Union. 12 countries originally signed on to the initial treaty back in 1949. We're talking the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, some of these countries. And it was meant to ensure three things. One, to deter Soviet expansion. Two, to restrict nationalist militarism in Europe, Nazi Germany, think about that. And three, to encourage political integration in an absolutely devastated and war-torn Europe. So that's what got NATO started. But at NATO's core is the principle of collective defense, meaning an attack on one member is an attack on all of its members. And when you hear about Article 5 of that treaty, that's what's in there. And to this date, Article 5 has only ever been invoked once in the long history of this alliance, and that was in response to the terrorist attacks on 9/11. So you go to today. Today, there are 32 nations that are members of NATO, the newest being Finland and Sweden, both which applied after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And now all 32 of those members are expected to uphold that principle of collective defense that I mentioned a little earlier. But each member also has other responsibilities to the alliance. Each nation has to continuously develop and maintain the capacity to resist an attack. In other words, they have to be able to defend themselves. Each member has to be committed to upholding the values of democracy and individual freedom and human rights and the rule of law. Each member is expected to consult the others so the alliance can address threats in solidarity, unison. Members are expected to have their own civil preparedness, meaning being able to resist or recover from something like an infrastructure attack. And members are also expected to ensure that their forces have the ability to work cohesively with the other allies. And once again, all of these responsibilities are to ensure readiness for a collective defense if that should ever be necessary. Then you move on to the money. You move on to funding. How much each country would spend if on defense. Now, that's the part, okay? Spending on defense is actually voluntary, although there are standards and guidelines in place to ensure the military preparedness for the alliance. So as of 2023, members pledged to commit at least 2% of their GDP to defense spending. There are actually plans to reach 5% by 2035. I do want to be clear about something. This is money that members have agreed to put towards their own military budgets. There's this kind of a small civil budget to cover operating costs, but it's not like there's some, NATO slush fund everybody contributes to for defense. And obviously, countries with smaller GDPs, they're going to have smaller military budgets. And while even as recently as 2024, not every member was meeting that 2% target, you know what? By 2025, all 32 NATO members, they were meeting that goal. And this was following a rapid increase in spending that was driven by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, it is worth it for the question is it worth it for the United States to be a NATO member, considering we have the largest economy in the world and contribute nearly twice the expected amount of other NATO members to our own military? That's the question. And we think about our nuclear capabilities compared to other countries. Well, I'm going to leave that for you to decide.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.